Like, we didn't give a fuck about the rules. We came into the break at 500 knots, full afterburner every fucking time. Like, squawks off, sweet, I'm bringing it every time. The Super Hornet, you're at 350. It's fucking lame. Like, there's something about the Tomcat. Everything we did was just...
These kids, they're going to be upside down. The world's going to be spinning beneath them. They're going to be talking on the radio. They're going to be selecting different weapons. They're going to be defending themselves from somebody shooting at them all at the same time. And then they're going to be accelerating, going to be under 7 Gs. Within 90 seconds, the amount of input going into their brain and the amount of things that their hands are doing and their mouths are speaking is incredible. It's just a fire hose of knowledge while they're flying at 600 knots and 7 Gs and 0 knots and 0 Gs.
I want to direct the conversation to the topic of the day, which is the F-14 Tomcat. So,
all right.
That's sexy beast.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. Look, you guys, as far as I'm concerned, you could stay here and talk Speed and Angels for 10 hours. I'd happily sit and watch and listen. Not a problem. But you guys both trained to fly the plane. You both flew. I think you both flew it in a war zone from memory. Talk to me about your, I don't know, your Tomcat experience, for want of a better way to put it.
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to?
You're up. Your face is there. Go.
You just volunteered.
I think, first of all, it was like, I feel like when you work for something a super long time, you're worried you're going to be let down, right? And so at 10, I was like, I don't know what this thing is. I want to go fly this airplane. I went to the Naval Academy. I couldn't name any aircraft in any service except for the F-14. Like, I knew nothing but F-14s. Yep. And so you kind of are worried it's going to let you down a little bit after 14 years. It did not. Like, it was, I get chills right now. I've been thinking about it. That airplane was a dream. It was fast and sexy and fun, and everything about it, every flight was amazing. And what I think I love the most about it, because Jay and I both had the same experience that we transitioned to the Super Hornet, it was that airplane. Like, when my squadron transitioned to Super Hornets, it was different. It was not the same. There were different rules. There wasn't the same, like, we didn't give a fuck about the rules. We came into the break at 500 knots, full afterburner every fucking time. Like, squawks off, sweet, I'm bringing it every time. The Super Hornet, you're at 350. It's fucking lame. Like, there's something about the Tomcat. Everything we did was just, like, I remember an Air Force guy I went to flight school with, and he'd come to me, we were CQing, and he was drinking with us at the bar, and he's like, you guys are such fucking cowboys. And I thought he was so lame that he said that. I'm like, Air Force guys are such losers. But now that I look back on it, I'm like, no, we really kind of were. Like, that was just, you know, I did a BFM flight when I was in the RAG in Key West. I overstressed in the snapshot drill by a full G. And then we kept doing the flight, and I overstressed 2 more times. I came back in for the 500 knot break. I got an above on the flight. Like, if you overstress in a Super Hornet, you down the flight. So there's something about just the community within the Tomcat that was fun. And it was, I mean, I could tell you stories about the Tomcat forever. It was a really magical experience. And then to be there in the sundown of it was something really special. But I'll let Jay elaborate.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you nailed it.
I got to tell you, sorry, I've got chills running up and down my body at the moment. And it's not just because it's cold. Thank you, Meagan. It was awesome.
You nailed it, Meagan. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. So one of the most, like, the fondest memories was the first memory, which was I had a great kind of instructor in the RAG, Burns Hess, and he was my first flight instructor. And the poor guy for the first flight, there's no training Tomcats. So the first time you jump in a Tomcat, you're the guy or gal, and it's on you. And it's one of those don't fuck it up airplanes, which I absolutely love. Like that's my favorite kind of airplane to fly. And you jump in there. You've done a lot of training to this point, but it's on you. And so it's pretty anxiety inducing. And they put a poor instructor pilot in the back seat with no flight controls but an ejection handle, and he's there to hopefully talk you through some bad situation or make sure you're doing it the way you're supposed to do it. And so we go fly. He does it first in the front seat, and then we come back land. We swap seats. And now I go, and we take off. And I'm just, I'm kind of type A in this environment, and I want to do everything perfectly. And I'm looking at the gauges, and I'm nailing this perfect instrument approach, and everything's dialed in. And he's like, "Hey man, just take a second. Like we just took off about 3 minutes ago. Just take a second, take a deep breath, and look in the rearview mirrors. There's these rearview mirrors right here." And he said, "Look what's behind you." And you look back and you see like a tennis court following you in the sky. And the wings were back at this point. And I just remember that, and it makes my little heart pitter patter right now. And every single time I talk about it, like the most incredible view that I always wanted to see was an airplane with the wings back here and a lot of it behind me. And then, we get in the area and go as far as you can forward with the throttle and go as high as it'll go and roll out at 40,000 feet. And you're just like, I can't believe I'm doing this. And it continues. And we could, like Meagan said, we could tell stories about the Tomcat. Any Tomcat pilot, or RIO for that matter, could tell stories about Tomcats for as long as you let them. I mean, pull the string and we're off.
Yeah, it's. I think the thing I notice, just like the guys and girls I've spoken to today, it's a love affair.
Yeah,
I think I get the sense that's what it is. Because I mean, as a civilian on the outside, I've never been in the military unless you count the Air Force cadets as a teenager. Doesn't really count. To fly in a plane like that would be the ultimate fantasy for me, and probably millions of people like me. And
one more point that Meagan kind of alluded to with the community in the airplanes, they're very different. A Super Hornet's a weapon system. You're meant to operate the weapon system. Flying the airplane is fairly easy. A Tomcat was a pretty challenging airplane to fly. I mean, maybe I'm just not that good, but I thought it was a pretty hard airplane to fly. And when I came back,
than me, but I thought it was hard. So
I was going to say, what do you reckon, Meagan?
So you get back from a flight and you do well. And I mean, if you're not backpatting yourself, like, I don't know where you are, because it provides so much pride. That airplane provided so much pride because it was hard. And you get in the Super Hornet and you're just supposed to do it well. Like, get back, you did your job. Congratulations, I guess. Let's go to the club. Like, the Tomcat was special in that manner, at least for me.
Yeah. No, I always say that. Well, I mean, I know you've heard the analogy, Jay, but the best analogy is you get your driver's license at 16 and dad gives you the 1976 Chevelle and it leaks and it doesn't have power locks, it doesn't have power windows, it doesn't have power steering, but it's fucking sexy. And you drive that and you just feel good and you feel like you can conquer the world and you're like winking at the person out, there's just this whole vibe. And then it starts to leak too much and dad says, "Hey, I'm going to trade it in. I'm going to get you a 2020 Audi." And you're like, "Well, this is cool too, but it's not the same. Like it's got nice lines. It can go fast, but there's no sex. There's something missing there. It doesn't have the same." Yeah. I always wonder if I would have stayed in longer if I was still flying the Tomcat, like if that would have changed my mind. But the community seems so different.
Yeah.
I don't know if it became less fun because I just got older and cynical. And I wanted to run my own life, or if part of it was it legitimately wasn't as fun,
Yeah, well, let's blame Senator Cheney for that one and the Hornet Mafia. In some of my research for this, I ran across this line, which I'm sure you guys have heard, but I only ran across it recently, which I loved, and it was something like, correct me if I'm wrong, Hornets by mandate, Tomcats by choice. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've heard that one before.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. So.
Totally.
I have always been a writer. I've been writing much longer than I was ever a pilot in the Navy. I started writing creatively in high school. And then my studies at university and college were such that I needed to write a lot of papers. They weren't fictional, but I just was writing constantly. And it had always been kind of a secret ambition of mine to be a novelist. And so finally, a few years after making Speed and Angels, I steeled myself for what I knew was going to be a long and difficult journey and sat down to write Lines of the Sky. So it was the realization really of a lifetime ambition to write a novel, hopefully the first of many novels, a good way through the sequel, which is called The Dragon. And it's just something I really love. I love the creative process. I love the written word, and I love being able to bring the thrill, excitement, and characters of naval aviation to people, in a fictional format. Lines of the Sky took what I would consider to be an embarrassingly long time to write. I had the outline done fairly quickly, and it was a good detailed outline, probably 30, 35 pages. So I knew where I was going with the book, and I had a great sense of all the characters. It just was a matter of finding the time and then really the confidence. My first draft was really bad, which I think is common, but it set me back a little bit after I finished it, and then I took some time off from the book for about 9 months, and then came back to it with a renewed sense of vigor. And then I finished the second draft, and then, pretty quickly after that, and jumped into the third and fourth draft, really fleshing it out and fine-tuning the narrative and the characterizations. And also taking a lot of the really granular detail out because it was just overwhelming. And then I found a phenomenal editor that I worked with for about 6 months, and that's really what took the book from maybe a good book, 90th percentile, to the book it is today, which I think those who read it really enjoy it. So that whole process took about 5 years. I'm hoping to trim that down on the second one to maybe a third of that time, so a little over a year. I was in the Navy a total of 20 years, 10 on active duty and 10 in the reserves. My highlights are, not necessarily in order, but the highlights are getting winged. When you're in university and you're in the Navy ROTC program, or I would imagine at the academy, and you aspire to be a naval aviator, getting winged is something that you can barely imagine achieving. It's the odds of getting into the program and succeeding, landing on an aircraft carrier, making it all the way to the finish line are so slim that it's almost embarrassing to wish for it, to aspire to it. So when you finally do succeed and you finish the program and you get your wings, it's a tremendously emotional moment. Second highlight is going on my first deployment. It's a great experience. You're filled with trepidation and excitement. You're very young. I think I was 25 years old on my first deployment. And it's a very real thing. You take something that was very conceptual and sort of romantic, and you go off on a ship with about 5,000 other people and a whole strike group, and you go off to do the mission that you were trained to do and you dreamt of doing for probably 7 or 8 years at this point, if not longer. So that was a huge moment in my career. And then probably the third highlight of flying in the Navy was getting into my reserve squadron and flying F-5s and being a bandit for 10 years. That was just the most pure and exciting and fantastic flying that anybody could ever ask for. It was really a joy, and I feel very fortunate that I got to experience that. I hope Lines of the Sky sounds interesting and intriguing to you, and you decide to pick it up. If you do, go to your local Amazon. It's available in hardback, paperback, Kindle, and audiobook as well. Thank you so much.
2, speed natives on the left. 3, 2, 1, take off.